Good evening, everybody. My name is Sulayman Brown, and I am one of the members of Gents Making Sense podcast. I thought it was a good idea for me to come on and give you a couple minutes of who I am, my experience, and why we chose to do this podcast. So, I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. Go Bucks. Um, I graduated from high school in the late 80s, and I decided to join the United States Navy. I'm from a military family. My father's retired Air Force. My brother is Corps. My other brother was in the Army. And I have significant uncles and aunts that have joined the military over the last 100 years. So, again, from a military family. But I joined the Navy after boot camp and after my training. I was assigned to Norfolk, Virginia, or assigned to the John F. Kennedy, an aircraft carrier that was based out of Norfolk, Virginia. During my time on the ship, I was involved in two significant events, military in the States. Our battle group was the battle group that shot down the MiG-29s, the Libyan MiG-29s, as well as we were involved in the first Gulf War. We were one of three aircraft carrier battle groups that rotated in and out of the Red Sea during that war. So I had some very good experiences being on the John F. Kennedy during that time. When we returned and I was up to either separate from the military or re-enlist, I decided to re-enlist. And that brought me to the Washington, D.C. area. I was assigned to Defense Intelligence Agency out of the Pentagon, J2. I worked at the Pentagon for about maybe 3.5 years. Met a lot of good friends while I was there. Opened a lot of doors for me to have opportunities once I departed the military. So I did depart and separate from the military, and I was fortunate enough to be able to walk right into a position in the State Department. I worked for the United States Agency for International Development. My department within that agency was the Office of Foreign Disaster Assistance. OFDA was the division that would deploy internationally for humanitarian assistance. So with my communications background, I was able to go out and support the team any way they needed to be supported. That gave me an opportunity to go to a lot of different places and experience something other than what I was used to here in the United States. I've been to almost every country in Africa, Southeast Asia, South America, the Middle East. I have been a lot of places. I experienced the tsunami. I was on the ground in Jakarta day one, and then I flew up to Banda Aceh and supported the tsunami assistance for about 6 months. I was in Sudan, in Khartoum, and south and eastern part of Sudan during the Darfur crisis. I spent about 9 months there as well. So it's significant experience dealing with humanitarian assistance. Some of the people, both Americans and international friends I have today, was based upon my experience with USAID. I worked there for about 12 years, and then I left USAID to come work local. So I took a job at Fairfax County Emergency Management. I've been here for about 18 years, very successful career. I am now the Deputy Coordinator of Emergency Management in Fairfax County. The highlights of being an emergency manager here is, one, I get to come home to my family. My wife and I were able to raise our daughter through Fairfax County schools, through life in Fairfax County. She now works for the county as well. That's a positive. Gave me a really, really good opportunity to be with my family. When I was traveling internationally, I missed a significant part of my daughter's younger life because I was gone. So having the opportunity to come back here and have that experience has been significant for me, and I appreciate that. One of the reasons why we chose to do this podcast is there's a bunch of us, about 10 or 11 of us that have been doing the fantasy league. We're ex-military. We all knew each other. We work with each other for about 20 years, some over 20 years. And we always talk about politics. We always talk about, the black male image. We always talk about trying to get a better image of us out into the media so that people see a different perspective. So I'm just going to take a second and pull up our statement and read that to you, and then talk a little bit more about why we decided to do this. So our vision statement for our podcast is Gents Making Sense vision is to provide a platform for news and sports events from a Black perspective, offering insightful and thoughtful, provoking commentary that informs and educates our audience. That's important to us. As I said, those of us that were in the military, my podcast members, and all of us on our fantasy league during our personal time, we work and live in this every day. And my biggest concern has always been the narrative that comes out specifically through our national media and our local media of the image of Black people, and specifically Black men. So we wanted to start this podcast to talk to our younger selves, or to talk to the younger people that are coming up about, and allow them to see something different. We're not sports figures. We're not entertainers. We're not important people when it comes to that lifestyle. We're just normal people who get up and go to work every day. We have wonderful lives with our family. We raised our children to be law-abiding citizens. And we want to use this podcast to show that image, to really blast it out to this country. We want to bring on people who work in fields that you may not have realized that are available to you. We've already done a podcast where we've had, we celebrated Women's International Month. We had an IT professional on, and we had a 911 professional on to talk about that. We did a Black male image podcast to talk about things that we need to do as Black men and Black people to improve our image, to regain control over what is portrayed of us out in society. We do podcasts every Thursday, typically every Thursday. So if you would subscribe, you would receive a message saying that we put out a new podcast. We're not experts, so we're not going to come on here and talk to you from an expert perspective. Our intention is to talk to you from a normal, regular person's perspective, to give you a different look in what Black people are, what we can be, what we have been, is to try to educate you that we don't need to be out there hurting ourselves and hurting our image, that we're better than what the national media wants to put out there, and we're here to try to push that narrative. So if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then join us when we go live. We're going to eventually go live here in a few weeks. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. We look forward to it. Thank you again. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.